Okay, in this video I'm going to explain what perfect competition means and what are the assumptions that are required for a market to be perfectly competitive. Think about a farmer that serves corn, right? So the first thing is that this farmer is probably selling a small proportion of all the corn sold in, let's say, a country like the U.S. So since a farmer sells a very small percentage of the corn, if this farmer changes the price of its corn, let's say, for $2 to $3, the price of corn in the markets is probably not going to change very much because that farmer actually sells a very small percentage of corn, of all the corn made in the U.S. So since the farmer has no effect on the overall market price of corn in the whole economy, we say that this farmer is a price taker. And the first assumption of perfect competition of a market that is perfectly competitive is that each firm in that market actually faces a similar situation as our farmer. Basically, this proportion that the firm sells out of a whole market is actually small enough that it has no effect over the price. Whatever they do has no effect over the price. So they're basically considered price takers. The second assumption is that the corn the farmers makes is actually no different than the corn farmer, let's say this farmer that we're talking about is in Illinois. So the corn this farmer produces is no different than if that all the farmers in the state produce, or the farmer that make corn in, let's say, Iowa. So all corn is corn, and which for corn it kind of makes sense, right? It's difficult to kind of differentiate one corn from the other. So from the perspective of the farmer, the product that the farmer sells, corn, is actually a homogeneous product. So the second assumption is called product homogeneity, which simply means that a firm in a competitive market sells a product that is actually homogeneous to a lot of other people selling that product. And for corn, that kind of makes sense. The last one is that if I wanted to become a farmer, if I was a hairdresser, and I wanted to become a farmer, I could probably do it without major, huge amount of costs. Now, for agriculture, that makes sense to a certain extent. But if someone has the land and you decide to become a farmer, you probably have a tractor and so there are some costs. But if we're going to assume that the market is competitive, we're going to assume that that anyone who wants to enter this industry can do it without major difficulties. So there's the cost of entering the industry are actually very low, so that anyone could enter the industry without any major difficulties, or actually even buyers can actually enter the market without major difficulties. So as long as these three assumptions are met, the firm is small enough that it doesn't have effect over the major price, that the good they sell is homogeneous, and finally that there's really very small cost in order to enter the industry, we're going to say that this market is perfectly competitive. And these are the first type of markets that we're going to be studying. We're studying them first because the assumptions of perfect competition allow us to understand, to simplify the model to a point that we can understand a lot of the dynamics. Now, this is not a completely realistic example because a lot of the markets or stores or firms that whether when you buy the food and when you buy your clothes, probably don't meet these three assumptions. But for the time being, making these assumptions allows us to simplify the model enough so that we understand a lot of things about the firms. And then when we understand those things, we're going to complicate things by making them more realistic.